Hey crew, it's Mike with Riding in the Ozarks. Today, let's take a look at my top 7 upgrades or mods for my Street Glide special. Now, I've had my 2016 Street Glide for just over 6 years, and these are the upgrades I have done over time. Even if you have a different year Street Glide, I think many of these upgrades are still going to apply to you. Most of us Harley owners enjoy giving the bike a little personality, setting it up just the way we like it. And I have to admit, most of these I did in the first year or two. We're also going to be talking about the big upgrade that everyone says you should do, but yet I haven't done it yet. Let's get into it. 1. Lighting. This is probably one of the most affordable upgrades you can start doing, and you don't have to do it all at once. In fact, LED turn signals, trim lights, tail lights, all make great holiday or birthday gifts. In 2016, my Street Glide special did not come with an LED headlight. Because I ride year-round, I needed to upgrade that headlight right away. It was dark many nights by the time I got home from work in the winter months. I originally went with a JW speaker brand, which I heard at the time made the Harley Daymaker. So it was like buying the Harley light without paying the HD tax. Then I added LED turns in the front, LED tri-bar, and rear turns. After that, I added the Custom Dynamics plasma rods. Man, I love the looks of those. In case you are wondering, all the lights on my bike are from Custom Dynamics except for the headlight. I was done doing upgrades to the lighting for a few years after that, but then last year I got a $90 headlight from Amazon, and it was a huge improvement in lighting over the JW speaker. So I've been running that ever since. If you like the Halo LED headlight I have now, you can check it out in this video. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. A few months ago, I added this Batwing vent LED light, and I love how bright these new Genesis 4 lights are from Custom Dynamics. Next will probably be the windshield trim or the saddlebag side lights from Custom Dynamics. After that, I would love to upgrade to an adaptive headlight. I've wanted one for years, but they're still a little pricey for my budget. 2. Stage 1 engine upgrade. My 2016 has a 103 cubic inch twin cam motor. Typical rear wheel dyno numbers would be around 81 horsepower and 93 foot-pounds of torque, stock. We did not run it on the dyno before doing the Stage 1 upgrade. I put a Vance & Hines VO2 air intake on it, true dual headers with no cat, and Rush slip-ons. And after having it tuned on a dyno by my friend, who actually owns J&R Max Power Tuning, I got 93 horsepower and about 116 foot-pounds of torque. Before the Stage 1, I really felt like I had to downshift to pull out and pass a car the way I wanted to, especially when running 2 up and going up a hill. After getting a proper tune with this setup, I never feel like that. I just roll on the throttle, no reason to downshift, and it goes. If these numbers are not enough for you, don't worry. You can always go with a Stage 2, Stage 3, Stage 4, or even a bigger crate motor to get more power if that's your thing. I think a Stage 1 dyno tune is really a worthwhile investment. I know some people go with tuners where you can download a map for your setup, and some of my friends have done that. And then later, some of them ended up getting a tune from J&R Max Power Tuning on the dyno, and they wish they'd done it a lot sooner. It's just not the same thing. If you're getting a Stage 1, I highly recommend getting a dyno tune if you can afford one. If you're in the Midwest and you need a good tuner, then check out the video description below for a link to the guy I use. 3. Handlebars. I bet 80% of Harley owners upgrade the handlebars in the first 2 years. I used to wonder why Harley doesn't let people order bikes the way they want them. You know, with different height handlebars instead of making us pay for a pair that we're just going to replace right away. I listened to an interview that Matt Laylaw had with Brad Richards, the VP of Design for Harley Davidson. In that interview, Brad mentioned that even when designing a motorcycle, there are still certain regulations and things they have to meet which address things like the handlebar heights, things like that. They got to make sure you don't get caught up in something if you're ejected from the vehicle, even on a motorcycle. So that kind of explains why Harley can't make a bike with 14-inch apes on it for you. Now, once the dealer has the bike, a whole lot of things can be changed. I went with 12-inch apes, and I love them. They're the perfect type for me, and I didn't have to buy new cables, just an inexpensive extension cable. Now, I personally decided to do chrome hand controls and switch covers, and I even splurged for the heated grips at the same time as doing the bars. Now, if you do go with 12-inch bars or higher, they will stick up over the Batwing, and in the cold, I don't benefit from the heated grips as much. That's because of the air coming over the Batwing. This winter, I put on a set of coffin-cut handguards to see if they would help with that much. They were originally black when I got them, but I had my buddy over at Allison Powder Coating redo them. We went with Porsche Silver because I'm sure Poor Silver's going to add 10 miles an hour to the top speed. They looked okay when he brought them back to me, but I was already skeptical about putting them on the bike, so I decided we needed to do a little something else to them. So I took him over to Cody at Plug Ugly's Customs, and I asked if he could put a little paint on them or something to make them just a little bit cooler. Okay, so here's the finished product installed. I'm still not super stoked on the handguard look, but the custom paint helps. And I have to admit, I can tell a big difference when riding with vented or lighter weight gloves. I immediately noticed the difference when I put my hand out in open air. I'll leave contact information for Allison's Powder Coating and Cody at Plug Ugly's Customs in the description in case anybody needs any work done in the Ozarks area. 4. Paint. Now this may not be for everyone, but it is probably the thing that I get the most comments about, and that is the custom airbrushing work done on my Batwing. A few years ago, after getting the bike, I lost 2 friends that I rode with in just a few short months, and I decided to remember them by putting some art on the front of my bike. Again, this design and work was all done by Cody at Plug Ugly's Customs. I had this idea, this concept in my head, but I can barely draw a stick figure, so Cody turned my concept into a one-of-a-kind, beautiful piece of art. This video doesn't do it justice, and my bike is dirty most of the time, but if you ever get a chance to see it in person, feel free to take a closer look. What is even more amazing is this is probably not his best work. He has done some really cool stuff. You can check him out on social media if you want to see more of his amazing work. 5. Stereo. I like to run 80 miles an hour in a half helmet or with no helmet, and you can barely hear the stock sound system over the wind noise at those speeds. I like to listen to music, get into my groove, and just ride sometimes. So a few years ago, I went with an upgrade from Sinister Sound. I'm sure there are plenty of other great systems out there. At the time, and based on price and availability, I decided to go with this setup, and I don't regret it. One thing you should know if you're having a sound system installed is make sure they can do a flash on the factory radio. If you have a Street Glide with factory setup, it will not have the front to rear fade option. After flashing it, you should have this option. With the upgrade I did, we got a 4-channel amp, so I can add 2 more speakers in the future, and the fade will allow me to adjust between the original and the second set of speakers. It's been over 3 years and 25,000 miles through all kinds of weather, and they've held up great. When we're rolling 80 across South Dakota, I could hear the sound system just fine over the wind. 6. Windshield. I put a Klock Werks windshield on my Street Glide right away. It's an affordable upgrade, and I love the flared windshield. Last year, I swapped the windshield with a buddy for a few hours so he could test out my Klock Werks, and boy did I regret that. I could not wait to get my Klock Werks back on my bike. His was about the same height as mine, but it didn't have that flare. And let me tell you, that flare does make a big difference. 7. Seat. I never minded the stock seat much, and I rode it for the first 3 years, and I would do over 300 miles a day often and not have an issue. But before we went to Sturgis, I bought a Sundowner touring seat from Harley Davidson, mainly for my passengers' comfort. I knew the stock seat would really be an issue for her with the kind of riding we were planning on doing at Sturgis. I know many people prefer a Saddleman or a Mustang or some other brand, but I had a plan. We put 700 miles on that seat in the first day going to Sturgis, and it was not bad. I mean, it could have been a little better, but it was not bad. At Sturgis, I had a custom seat guy add gel to the seat, shave the sides a little, and then take all the foam that he had taken out and put it into the section where my lower back sits against the seat. And now I love everything about that seat except for the look. It's still pretty plain, but maybe we'll do something about that in the future. Okay, the big upgrade that so many people recommend that I have not done is suspension. My 2016 Street Glide has an older front suspension design than the 2017s and later touring models. To be honest, I was really not unhappy with the suspension until the last year. Maybe it's just not performing as well after 50,000 miles of mostly 2-up riding, but it seems like the rear end is bottoming out more frequently on the same roads that I've always ridden, and last year it felt like the front end was not holding as well in the twisties. I've decided that suspension is going to be my next big upgrade, and it's coming soon. In the next month, I'll share with you what suspension I was considering, and what setup I picked, and why. So if you've not done a suspension upgrade, or maybe you're just not happy with the one that you did do, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss those upcoming videos. If you liked the video, well, you know what to do by now. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.